Welcome, folks, to another edition of Ranking Something. Today, we're actually not going to rank any albums. We're going to rank the songs, what we feel are our top 10 Styx songs. And to help me do that today will be none other than Mr. Davey Cretin, which you can
Hello.
see him right now after his Styx shirt was vanishing from view there.
Woo.
All
Hello,
right.
everyone. Thank you for having me, Joey.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to have you here talking some Styx. Everybody
Yes.
likes some Styx, that's for sure. And it's awesome that's to see that Styx is actually going to be on the road again this summer, like they are almost every single summer. But they're on a big package this year. They're coming with none other than Foreigner, who's supposedly finishing up their farewell, quote, farewell tour again. And surprise opener. I was shocked when I see who was going to be opening the show. None other than Mr. John Waite, who hasn't
From the
played. Yeah,
from the Babies in Bad English.
that John Waite, exactly. And I just had the honor of seeing him this past Saturday as he played one of our historic venues by us here. And man, you take a look at him during the performance. I had to do a double take when I looked up how old he was today. 71 years old, but yet he can
Wow.
still. It doesn't seem like it. It seems like he's in his 40s up there the way he's moving around on stage. It's just amazing. 70 is the new 40, I say.
How did he sound? How was his voice?
Good. I mean, he changed some of the tempos on some of the songs, but overall, it was a really good show. Strong vocal performance. It didn't sound like he lost anything, but he still down tuned some of the songs. Probably to save on his voice or something because he's in the middle of the tour and then he's got to worry about going back out on the road all summer playing those
Yep.
amphitheaters. So, not an easy task to do at that age, any age really nowadays. The way people are blowing out their voices and stuff. So.
Oh yeah.
All right,
One,
so let's dig.
one
Yeah,
last question about Mr. Waite. How was the split between Babies, Bad English, and solo material?
yeah, it was probably mostly like 50% Babies and the rest everything else.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm sure he's going to open the show, so he's probably getting like a half hour, 40 minutes maybe.
Short set. Yeah.
Yeah, so it probably just will be the hits, but just to see him do them, if you haven't seen him in a long time or ever, this will be the time to see him for sure. All right, so Styx this summer to an amphitheater near you, but not near Buffalo, of course, because they always like to skip us. So, yeah, no Styx show near here at all. Our closest show is like 3 hours away, so we're gonna be doing road tripping. But let's get back to the task on hand here. Let's start ranking these Styx songs here. Go ahead and we're gonna go list our 10 back and forth till we get down to our favorite Styx song, and then we'll go from there. So start us off, if you will, with number 10.
Okay. Number 10. In 1977, I have no older siblings. I have a younger sister. So I didn't know about FM radio. And in 1977, I found FM rock radio after listening to only AM radio for decades. Not decades, but for a long time. Let's say since I was a wee little lad. So I found FM radio, and here in the city, and I'm in Queens, New York, I found two stations on the FM band that I really liked. WPLJ, which was a rock station at the time. Now it's top 40, if it's still even there. And WNEW-FM, which is still a rock station called Classic Rock now. And I heard this song by a band that I didn't really know. I didn't know at all. A lot of those bands were new to me on FM. And I heard a song by a band called Styx called Come Sail Away. And that was my first exposure to Styx in 1977. Say that 3 times fast. I can't even get it out once. At any rate, so Come Sail Away is my number 10 song. I love Dennis DeYoung's voice on it. He wrote it. He sang it. It charted high. I think it reached number 6, if memory serves. And I love that it starts out as a pardon me?
Number 8.
Number 8, close. Okay.
Top
so
10 for sure.
10.
Yep.
So it starts out as a ballad and then it becomes a big rock song. And there's this great keyboard, progressive rock middle section which I love the way it's orchestrated and the way Dennis DeYoung put it all together. And I love his synth sounds from the 70s, his ARP Odyssey and his little, I guess, Poly Moog, Mini Moog type stuff. He's a great player. So at number 10, Come Sail Away. I had to include it. I didn't want to because it's so overplayed, but it was my introduction to the band, so I couldn't leave it off my list.
Okay. Well, we'll see if it ends up on mine, but it's not number 10.
Okay.
But I agree. Yeah, great song. It was definitely the first song I ever heard by Styx as well. So we're in the same boat on that one. So, but my number 10 is actually going to be more of a rare song. Although this song did chart in the top 40, the band never plays it. Obviously, it's a Dennis DeYoung song. That's another reason why they don't play it today. And Dennis doesn't even play it. I like to ask him why not, but I never got a chance to interview him. But why not? Why me? Why me at number 10, number 26, a gem that I love. I just love that song. I heard it back in 1979 on the radio when it first came out. Top 40 song, reached all the way up to number 26. Um, Followed on the heels of the number one song on that album, which is Styx's only number one song, which would be Babe. Um, yeah, just a great song, something totally different out of the norm for Styx. With Dennis leading the way there. That's his song there, and yeah, they never really played it much live, so they never really got much of a chance to. Probably one of the reasons why they never, you know, they used to play it in the early '80s, but they haven't really touched it ever since they got back together back in '96 for the Return to Paradise tour, and then the short time that Dennis was playing with them before they had to replace him. Um, they never touch it now, but yeah, great song. It was actually the Lights was actually the B-side to it, interestingly enough, which was another great song from that album. Cornerstone is one of those albums that I feel just doesn't get its just due. I mean, it's probably, everybody knows it mostly because of Babe, you know, unfortunately, but that's not even the best song on that album. So
I
regardless,
agree.
regardless that it became number one, that's the one song that really divided the band over the many years. Even when they got back together in '96, they had to play it. I believe they played it just for that one tour. But I know JY and Tommy just despise that song. So but it was a number one, so you kind of gotta please the fans. That is one song that Styx never turns to nowadays. They actually warmed up to Roboto in the set all these years after not playing it after Dennis left, and they've kept it in the set ever since as an encore, surprisingly.
Yes.
So I was kind of surprised by that. I figured it was a one time in and one time out type situation for that one tour, but they keep playing it, and they must really enjoy it, or they wouldn't be doing it. Let's face the facts here. So, all right, so then we can get carried on all day about Styx albums and songs, but that is my number 10, and that will take us up to number 9 for you.
That's a good choice. It's a deep cut, and it's a little different because it has the horn section on it in the middle. Instead of a real guitar solo, it's sort of a horn solo mixed with a guitar solo. So it's a different style, different sound for them.
Right.
Good song. My number 9 is an even deeper track, going all the way back to 1973.
Ouch.
The Serpent is Rising album. And
Oh,
I'm going to choose The Grove of Eglantine. Dennis DeYoung written song, and he sang it as well. It's another excellent song. It's progressive. It has great use of keyboards, and I love his vocals on it. And I like the subject matter too, but we won't go into that right now. But I
wow.
guess he dedicated it to his wife, and let's just leave it at that. So The
Yeah.
Grove of Eglantine, my number 9.
Wow, I never would have expected something from the wooden nickel era there. For sure. Not even Lady. I don't think that Lady will pop up on any of our lists. But yeah, wooden nickel. Wow, you're really digging deep there.
And
All
I
right.
have another one coming up from that era.
Oh boy. Interesting. All right, so my number nine is a little bit different. It's actually probably their most underrated song in the fact that it was a single. It failed to hit the top 40, but it came about as close as you can. It hit number 41 back in the day, and that is none other than Sing for the Day.
Oh, okay. I was wrong.
Sing for the Day back in that one comes from the Pieces of Eight album. And yeah, great song. Tommy sings it, of course. Peaked at 41. I mean, how close can you get to getting a top 40 hit there? Uh, Oddly enough, that was the second single released from the album. So they definitely were, well, I don't know if it was the record company or the band, but whoever came up with the idea to release it as a single, they picked that over Renegade. Of course, Renegade was the third single released from that album, which peaked even higher. The Renegade was the third single, but it reached the highest number out of all the singles from that album at number 16. So, yeah, you just never know sometimes. I mean, there's so many, you can go through history of bands and singles and charting. And, sometimes the fifth single released is the best single and charts the highest and sells the most. So it just all depends, it's all about timing and a lot of other factors factor in there. But getting back to Sing for the Day, that was uh, came into being. It's a Tommy Shaw song. Did well in Canada too. It actually hit the top 40 there at number 27. Um, and I remember I got to see him sing it live, maybe once or twice. It was pretty cool. Definitely one of those songs that it's funny thing is he used the name Hannah in the song, and several years later he named his newborn daughter Hannah. So unfortunately, as people
Yes.
might think, it's not about her because she wasn't even born till many years down the road. But interesting how that came to be, how he named his daughter Hannah down the road there. So yeah, definitely a nice song. It has a lot of keyboard and guitar, and a lot of people compared it to like a Yes song with the arrangement. And interestingly enough, so that was like one of the kind of one of the last kind of songs that Styx would kind of see some of the progressive influence used in the song. Because they started off more on the Wooden Nickel era. After that album, it was more geared towards pop and Dennis and all of his ballads, if you remember.
He did have ballads in the early days.
Yeah, yeah. But it seemed like he really geared it. Like if you listen to Brave New World, oh my God, it's it's mostly all ballads, and the Dennis songs are really boring on that album.
That I would agree with you on. But Dennis's keyboard work on Sing for the Day is great.
Oh yeah,
Those flute sounding keyboards that permeate the whole song from start to finish, great. And Hannah Shaw, Tommy's daughter, is actually a cat expert. She has her own YouTube channel and she's famous for helping people with stray cats. And I
interesting.
saw her recently, a picture of her, and she has sleeves of tattoos on both her arms.
Oh yeah, yeah. We saw her and met her at a Styx show in Youngstown, Ohio once. She was doing some kind of cause, like you said. I don't remember what it exactly was, but she was in the back of the arena, kind of like letting people know about whatever it was that she was trying to promote. And she was taking pictures and posing for people, so that was pretty cool. Um, because a lot of times when you got a band member's family, they try not to get too noticed out there because they don't want any problems or something. But she was out there with no security, just doing whatever, and pretty interesting. But yeah, so Sing for the Day, number 41, almost cracked the top 40, just not quite. So there's my first non top 40 song of Styx on here with a couple more to come.
Okay, and Hannah Shaw is very photogenic because look at her father, Tommy Shaw, and her mother is a soap or was a soap opera star. She was an actress, her mother. So attractive lady. And she's out there promoting a good cause to help
Right.
animals,
Yep.
kitty cats. So it's aces in my book,
Yep.
even though I'm allergic to cats, unfortunately. But getting back to the list, coming in at number 8, speaking of Tommy Shaw, from the Kilroy Was Here album, Just Get Through This Night is my number 8. It's a big, epic, sweeping ballad, and he plays some interesting string Japanese instruments on it. So it sounds very progressive because it's very different sounding. The whole intro, the middle section, the outro, and Dennis DeYoung is great on piano throughout the song. And I love the lyrics, and Tommy Shaw's vocal performance is one of my favorites, if not my favorite vocal performance of his. And just that line, don't you know there's no place on this earth where you can run to escape the pain of a broken heart? Amazing line. I love the way he sings that. So number 8 from Kilroy Was Here, Just Get Through This Night by Mr. Tommy Shaw.
Yeah, that's one of those songs that kind of eluded me. I'll have to give it a good listen now that I heard your take on it.
I've
You
always
know,
loved it.
yeah, so I mean, Kilroy from Kilroy Was Here was definitely not one of my favorite Styx albums by a mile. Um, but I'm always willing to give some of these. Once you hear some takes on something, who knows? Maybe I'll feel the same about that song. But my number 8 is a Tommy Shaw song, though, so at least we got that in common. And we're gonna take a ride down the river in a boat. Boat on the River. Tommy Shaw coming in at my number 8. Obviously, that's another one from Cornerstone, and probably I would say, in my opinion, in my taste, that's my favorite song off of Cornerstone. You got a lot of different choices on here, but that is definitely my favorite song. Boat on the River is one of those songs that the band will play occasionally here and there. They mixed it in over the years, not often, but I think it's on one of their live albums or something where they did something with it, like an acoustic song in the middle of the set somewhere.
Yeah, when they do a full length headlining set or 2 sets instead of being on a package tour deal like what they have coming up with Foreigner and John Waite next year,
Hmm.
they do it on their like headlining set when they do a lot more of the deep cuts.
Yeah, I don't think I ever seen it live myself, but I remember that it's on one of the live albums. I don't remember which one. There's so many out there and stuff, but
That's true.
definitely a great song. Wow, listen to this. Classic rock critic Malcolm Domes rated Boat on the River is his 8th greatest Styx song. Interesting. And it's my 8th greatest Styx song. That's a rarity. I didn't even know this until actually reading it right this second. So we got the same taste in that kind of music, I guess. But yeah, so
And
that mhm.
that was a huge worldwide hit. The only country it wasn't a hit in is America. That was released overseas in Europe. It has that European feel and flavor to it, so it was a huge hit overseas.
Yeah, I think that's why it was on one of the live albums because I think it might have been one of those foreign shows they played or something. That would explain why they probably played it. Yeah, nice, just a nice
Mm-hmm.
tender 3 minute and 10 second song. It just great song. It hides on the side one right at the end before you flip it over and played Borrowed Time. So Boat on the River, number 8.
Okay, my number 7, going back to the wooden nickel era, all the way back to Styx 2 from 1973, a Dennis DeYoung pen song, Father OSA, an epic 7-minute plus second song. Love this song. It has that church organ intro, little fugue in G, I think it is. And it goes right into the song. And Dennis DeYoung recorded the church organ in an actual church in Chicago. And I love this song. It's epic. It's a big prog number. Great keyboards, great vocal performance, and some tasty guitar work from James Young and John Cyrulewski. And also to give some love to the rhythm section of the Panazzo or Panazzo
Oh,
brothers, whichever way you want to pronounce it. John and Chuck on drums and bass. Excellent song. Father OSA from Styx 2 is my number 7.
okay. My number 7, we're gonna dig into Equinox, and Equinox had 2 singles released, and this number 7 is the only one that actually charted on the singles chart at number 27. And of course, we are talking about none other than Miss Lorelei. Probably one of the first Styx songs that I can remember. You know, other than "Come Sail Away," like this was, even though this was 1975, 77 was where about the time frame when I heard "Come Sail Away," right around the time that album was released, and I didn't really get into the band anymore, other than that song until maybe about, because I didn't really start listening to rock real closely until about 81. But just around that time was when I started discovering the band's catalog deeper. And you go back in, and Equinox was definitely one of those albums that you go, wow, what a great album. Where was I for the last 6 years, And yeah, the unbelievable Lorelei. I've always that's one of those songs that my one of my good friends always enjoyed, and he's the one that really woke me up to that song. And and they still do it today. JY usually sings it, which is I don't know why they never have Gowan try it, but JY always sings it for some reason. He does okay on it, but I prefer to hear how Gowan would sound, since he's more closer to he sings most of the Dennis songs. So it just would make sense maybe to just to hear how he would sound on it and see if it made it any difference. Not that JY does a bad job or anything. I just found it weird why he would be the one to sing it. That's all, since he doesn't really sing a lot of the
I think
songs.
he co-wrote it. That's probably why.
That could be. That would make more
He and
sense.
Dennis co-wrote that one.
Yeah, that would definitely make sense. But great song, and my number 7.
Number 6, we're going to go to their 6th album from 1976, Crystal Ball, the first album with Tommy Shaw. And this song is the Dennis DeYoung and Tommy Shaw co-write. The
Ooh.
last song, Claire de Lune / Ballerina, another epic song that's 7 minutes. And it starts out as a great Dennis DeYoung ballad with him on the piano. And then it develops into this great hard rock song with dueling guitars. The whole ending of the song is dueling guitars, James Young and Tommy Shaw. So it's another one of those just big mini prog epics. And it's in my top 10 at number 6, Ballerina from Crystal Ball.
Wow. Yeah, you're really pulling some deep ones out here. Definitely songs that I wouldn't have never even thought of putting on my list. But that's what makes it fun. You're pulling out these songs that very interesting songs, and it's going to make me dig back into going back and listening to these things for sure. So I
Excellent.
thank you for that. That's awesome. Especially that one from Kilroy was here that I wasn't too familiar with, because there's not much on that album that I actually liked. So to go back and revisit it again, maybe if that turns out to be, because I mean, obviously, as you will see as we get closer up my list, you're going to definitely see more Tommy Shaw things on the list, because there's no doubt I'm more partial to Tommy Shaw. Yeah, and a lot of people aren't. There's so many people that are so adamant about Dennis DeYoung and why he's not there, including one of our friends and yours, Mr. Tom Jennings. He's a big Dennis fan, and his dream is to see these guys play together one more time, and it would be great, but I don't think it's ever,
I
ever,
don't
ever going
think
to
it's
happen.
going to happen. No.
Um, but who knows? You never say never as long as these guys are alive, and that we learned that lesson from many other people down the road. So yeah, you can always hold out the hope, but that's all you can do. All right, so that was your number 6.
Yes.
So I'm going now back into the other single that was released on Equinox, and it did not chart. And it's also a song that the band really have they never really played it much from the time 99 from the Brave New World tour on up until about maybe about 10 years ago, somewhere in that range. They decided to, yeah, let's add this into the set. And so yeah, it was pretty cool how they finally got into it and added it to the set. It was a Dennis DeYoung Penn song, and it's none other than "Light Up," everybody, light up. Join us in the celebration. Yeah, so "Light Up" is definitely always been a favorite song of mine ever since. Like I said, I really this Equinox album is just amazing. I don't think this album actually gets as much love as it should. You never really hear too many people talking about Equinox, but then again, you're going up against the people who love Pieces of Eight, Grand Illusion, Paradise Theater. So I mean, this band made so many great albums in a row.
Yeah.
And how many bands nowadays can pull that off when you just go from album to album to album and just unbelievable amount of great music like that. You don't see it anymore these days, really. It's a shame. The art of making solid albums is just not as good as it used to be, you know, unfortunately.
We're in
These
a
like
different world now.
oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely. So, getting back real quick to the song, yeah, it was awesome when they finally added it back in the set after all these years. They started it off by I don't know if you're familiar, back in about it was about 2011 or 10, somewhere around there. They started doing this what they called an 18 song medley, which drummer Todd Zuckerman was the one that came up with the idea and orchestrated it all and put it all together, where they would do like little snippets of 18 songs and they would just play it from beginning to end all the way through. And what it did was it helped bring light to some of these songs that they just never get a chance to play live and everything. And it was a real interesting thing. And I remember I interviewed him about it and talked about it. So that's you can find that on my website, plug at rockshowcritique.com. Just look up under interviews Todd Zuckerman. I've interviewed him before, and he'll explain all about it right in there if you have any questions. I don't have his email address, so you can't ask him, but
He's a
uh,
great drummer,
yeah, oh yeah.
phenomenal drummer.
Yeah. So the cool thing was that's when they first kind of put a little snippet of rubato in there too. That's where what kind of maybe planted the seed. It wasn't much of a snippet, but they put it in there, and there was other songs like "Borrowed Time." I think was the song that started off the medley, but interesting how they put it all together, and so that was pretty much where Light Up started to be recognized, and then pretty much over the years they decided to just add the song right into the set. So uh, great job by doing that. Great song, and that is my number 6.
Okay, coming in at number 5 on my list, going to 1981, the Paradise Theater record, a song written by James Young and Dennis DeYoung, sung by Tommy Shaw and James Young, Snowblind, which at
Ah,
the time was a big FM rock radio hit. I recall hearing Snowblind on the radio. And that definitely, after the 70s and the early 80s, has some progressive tendencies. Dennis's keyboard work on it, and just the different sections of it, the different vocalists singing different parts of it. I would say that's a prog rock, hard rock song.
mm-hmm.
And it's about the evils. Your last song was about Mary Jane, let's call it. And Light Up was about Mary Jane. And this song, Snowblind, oddly enough, is about the evils of cocaine. I mean, Geddy Lee just came out in an interview and said Rush was doing coke in the 80s to just keep their energy level up. I guess for those 2 hour plus epic marathon, no pun intended, shows that Rush used to do. And also, I guess other bands had some issues and problems with it. So the song about cocaine from 1981, Snowblind.
Yeah, it was interesting that I guess Tommy Shaw. There was something about uncredited lyrics by him to the song, but obviously the credits show Young and Dennis. So it's kind of interesting how they don't. Dennis didn't really sing the lead on it. That was kind of surprising. I don't know. the story behind why he never did. Um, but interesting, yeah. And the cool thing was, Snowblind was one of these songs that the band hasn't really played much over the years, surprisingly, because it was such a big hit, and the way the contrasted in the vocals between JY and Tommy Shaw. But fortunately, me and Mr. Jennings went to Rochester about 2019. It was right before the pandemic. They played in the Armory in 2019. They play. I knew it was 19, but 2019 they played the Armory, and it was one of those shows where they were starting to do the two sets because it was for the Mission, the tour,
Yes.
and they actually played Snowblind. Man, I'll tell you, man, that was the only time I've ever seen it live, and wow, phenomenal, simply phenomenal. I was really glad to see that one finally chalk it off the list there of Styx songs that I had never seen live, but yeah,
Oh,
great song, good choice there.
thank you. Back in 1981, I saw the Paradise Theater tour, so I saw them do that originally on that tour. And I saw them on the Kilroy tour too, and most other tours since then, except the one tour I didn't see them on is for the last album. But I did see them do that on the Paradise Theater tour. Great
Yeah,
song.
unfortunately, I never got to see Styx. Let me think back now. Yeah, the first time I ever saw Styx was not until 1991, because by the time I was able to go to concerts, they had already broken up after Kilroy. So I never got a chance to see them until 91. They played the old Darien Lake Amphitheater, which was a much smaller venue than what it's at now. It was in a different part of the amusement park. And that was when Glenn Burtnick was there singing his songs, because
Yep.
Tommy was in Damn Yankees and not in the band anymore at that point. So that was that was a rare lineup, seeing Glenn Burtnick as one of the main lead vocalists during the show. Obviously, Glenn, once the band got back together down the road in the early 2000s after Dennis was gone, Glenn did come back and play bass and played with the band and sang here and there. He sang a couple songs here and there, not too many. But yeah, he seems like a really good guy. I enjoyed his music on the Edge of the Century. A lot of his songs were, he had a lot of hand in writing them. And I don't know if
Yeah.
you ever followed his solo career, but he came up with some
A
pretty
little
good
bit.
material. Yeah, I think I got one solo album by him, but it was probably his best one. I don't remember the name of it, but good songs. He definitely had. I liked a couple of those songs. A Hard Day's Work. Trying to think of the big
All in a day's work.
Love is the Ritual too, off of the Edge of the Century. All in a
I
Day's
saw them
Work.
on I saw them at the Beacon Theater in New York City on that tour, and I met everyone in the band except Glenn Burtnick because he was sick.
Oh wow, that sucks. But yeah, so I didn't get a chance to see Styx, back in the day. I would have loved to have seen him like on the Paradise Theater or before even, but unfortunately that was before my time.
I was there. I was a wee lad, but I was there.
All right, so that was your number 5, you said?
Yes, number 5.
All right, my number 5 is probably what yours came in at number 10 as, I believe you said. And that's none other than my second favorite Dennis DeYoung song, and that is the number 8 charting song on the album Grand Illusion, and that is Come Sail Away, the song that you mentioned about and we've talked about a little bit. And yep, like you said, I echo your sentiments on this song. No matter, it's like no matter how many times you hear this song, I just don't get sick of it. I mean, I wouldn't want to keep playing it and playing and playing it, but I don't hear it a lot these days. But when I do, I don't get sick of it like some songs by some bands that get driven down your throat, like Pour Some Sugar on Me. Do any of these radio people know that Def Leppard does have more than one song out there? Just in Guns N' Roses too. You keep on hearing the same 3 Guns N' Roses song over and over and over until you just want to choke somebody. And that's an episode we're going to do down the road. Songs you despise because you hear them way too much or something like that, we'll call it. But Just Come Sail Away would not fall under that in my category. No matter how many times I hear it, I enjoy it every time I hear it. So that's a testament to how great the song is. You know what I mean? You just don't get sick of it, and that's probably the song I've heard the most by Styx. In a landslide, just because that was the song that I was initially turned on to him by. So number five, Come Sail Away.
Funny thing about that is I played all my top 10 today and a little more. We'll get to the honorable mentions. I played them all today, except I skipped Come Sail Away because I've heard it so many times, it's ingrained in my brain. So I just skipped it today.
Ingrained in the brain. There you go.
Yep.
All right, we're
Okay.
cracking down here. We're going down. We got four to go each. Interesting. Let's see what kind of surprise you're going to spring on us now.
I'm going to 1978, the eighth Styx album, Pieces of Eight.
Ah.
Side two, the deep track, Queen of Spades, a great
Ah.
hard rock song, co-written by Dennis DeYoung and James Young. And Dennis DeYoung sings it. And I know that Shaw and Young have painted Dennis DeYoung as a balladeer, and he's soft rock. He's too Barry Manilow. But listen to his performance on Queen of Spades, and it rocks. It's a great freaking song. And he could sing a hard rock song. He wrote hard rock songs. The fact that they seem to think and have sort of tried to change history and paint him as a big balladeer. He writes ballads, but he could rock also. So Queen of Spades.
Yeah, I would say that DeYoung, that's not the knock on him early on in the band's career, but just at least on the Brave New World album, that's where I would pen that. I mean, even on Edge of the Century, it's not all ballads, so I mean, yeah, I mean, maybe it was unjust, but it does seem like he does do a lot of the that album. The Brave New World is definitely, it's not a cohesive album. There's a lot of division there because of the way they interwove the songs. You got a Tommy song, a Dennis song, and it kind of goes in and out. And the flow of the album is just really not that great. And
It's
don't
one
get
of
me
their
wrong,
least best albums.
but Tommy's songs on there are really strong. There's a lot of songs on Brave New World that I really enjoy, and the Dennis songs not so much. Unfortunately, that's sad that that's how the Dennis's career in Styx is going to end with that album, because he deserved better. Um, but what can you do? But at least he ended his solo career on a better note for sure.
With the two albums,
Yep.
yes.
Yep. All right, so there's your number four. Mine, I am digging back to Equinox one more time. And my favorite Dennis DeYoung song, never released as a single, mostly because of the length of the song, but everybody knows it, no doubt about it. If you don't know this song, you don't know Styx. None other than the amazing, sweet Madam Blue. What a great song. This is one of those songs that you never ever get sick of, no matter how many times you hear it. It's just one of those songs that takes you back to a certain time and era. It's just I don't know how to describe it. It's just one of those songs that you just can't get enough of. Really, really enjoy this song. It was written just by Dennis, and that was the last song on the album. And the next album would bring in Tommy Shaw because John Serlewski leaves. So it's like a whole little, that was a whole different situation. They go from the band that they had in Equinox, where they finally start, that was like their album that kind of really, although Lady was the first single and it had success, Equinox was the first album for Styx that really started to do well. That's the
Well,
one that
because
really.
it was on a major label. Pardon me for interrupting, but it was their debut on A&M Records, and they had the push of a big record company instead of this tiny label out of the Midwest, Wooden Nickel Records. That's what did it. The corporation, the money, the bucks pushed them. But Equinox is a great album, very progressive, great keyboard work throughout the album by Dennis.
Yeah, regardless of all that, no, this is the album that got them all the air. They started the real heavy rotation with the airplay on these songs that they picked up. I mean, you go back and Light Up, Lorelei, uh, Sweet Madam Blue, those were staples back in the day, and it helped set the stage a little bit. I felt Crystal Ball, they kind of, it was a whole new situation. You had to break in a new guy, and but Crystal Ball still went gold, so it wasn't like they really lost a lot. Maybe couple positions on the chart, because Equinox, even with all the pushing of A&M and how great of a label it was, it only made number 58 for Equinox. But Crystal Ball 66, but it wasn't really until Grand Illusion where the dividends really paid off. That's where they
Yes.
really, um, that's where Styx became Styx for sure. It just took an extra album for everything to gel properly. But boy, when those guys did, you come in with four solid. I mean, how many bands can say the quality of musicianship and songwriting and everything? Grand Illusion, Pieces of Eight, Cornerstone, Paradise Theater. You try to pick four albums from any band, much less four successive releases in a row that all went triple platinum, all
Yeah.
four of them. I mean, how many bands can say that? I mean, and that's probably not, that's being generous. I would say if you go back, and who knows when the last time those albums were actually certified, because I would assume Pieces of Eight and Paradise Theater probably actually sold a lot more than that. They probably just haven't updated the certifications in a while, because
Yes, I agree.
that's definitely really low considering how great those albums are for sure. So yep, so that's what you got from me there. You got Sweet Madam Blue at number 4, the best Dennis DeYoung song bar none.
We might be hearing about that later. But moving on, my number 3 Styx song from the Grand Illusion album, written by Mr. Dennis DeYoung, Castle Walls. I
Wow.
love that song. I've seen him play it. I've seen Styx play it. And it's a 6-minute prog epic. Starts out with the thumping bass of Mr. Chuck Panazzo. And then it goes on to have some great mellow keyboard work, excellent vocals by Dennis DeYoung, and it becomes a prog mini epic with some great drum work from John Panazzo in the middle section, some great keyboard work by Dennis, and excellent guitar work and power chords from JY and Tommy Shaw. And it's definitely a Dennis deep cut, and it's my number 3 favorite Styx song, Castle Walls, from the Grand Illusion, 1977, the big breakthrough album that was also released on 7/7/77. And it was their lucky 7th album that broke them wide in this country.
There you have it. All right, so there we got number 3. So my number
Yes.
3 is one of the songs that the band loves to open their show with. And being a photographer kind of sucks in that aspect, because when they allow you to shoot the show, it's usually the first 3 songs. So I never really get to enjoy the song for as much as I could when I'm trying to shoot the band. So I wish they would play it as an encore. Note to Styx, please. None other than Blue Collar Man, Tommy Shaw song, no doubt. Pieces of Eight, Blue Collar Man. Um, that was another one of those great songs that over time it just goes to show you how great of a song it was and is. And it's classic blue collar. It's a classic blue collar song. Um, it was the first single released from Pieces of Eight, and it did reach all the way up to number 21. So Pieces of Eight, obviously, a lot of people really feel that like that's the best Styx album. That's how I feel too. I do feel Pieces of Eight is the band's most consistent, solid, no filler, all killer from track 1 all the way up to the end there. Just a great album, and it seems to be more of a, for the most part, more of a Tommy album. I think every album kind of has its identity, and it's just weird how Shaw has 4 songs that he wrote on here, and one being the whisper chant song of that ends the album. I'm not even sure how to pronounce it. Aku
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 Aku.
Aku Aku.
Aku Aku.
It's just not that's definitely probably the weakest part of the album, but that's how it ends. And but you got the Tommy Shaw song, "Sing for the Day," which I had mentioned. All Renegade, Blue Collar Man. Those are just great songs. And Dennis had his share. I'm okay, which he once again co-wrote with JY. It's just amazing how you go back in the history of Styx and you look and you go, wow, JY and Dennis wrote a lot of songs together. And some of the really, really good songs.
Yes.
And it's just amazing how now they can't even speak to each other. It just doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. But
It's all about money and ego and power and fame, unfortunately. That's what it comes down to.
yeah, it's just a shame because I didn't realize how many great songs they wrote together, because I always assumed it was just a Dennis songs. I always assumed DeYoung wrote the majority of the ones that he wrote, which, some of them he did, obviously like Babe and, those type Lady and whatever else.
Best of times.
The ones that he's mostly known for as ballady or like you said, but all right. And what do you got for your number 2?
Well, before I mention my number 2, in interviews, Dennis DeYoung has said that when Tommy Shaw brought the song Blue Collar Man, or was it Renegade? It was one of them into the band. It was a slow bluesy type number. And Dennis DeYoung said, "Oh, we should speed this up. This should be more of a rock song, more upbeat." Now I forgot if it was Blue Collar Man or Renegade, but it was one of them. So they worked best together in the band. The push and pull and just each other's ideas all was for the betterment of the song, to make each song better. So much like Van Halen after Roth left and it's a different band, just when Dennis DeYoung left, Styx turned into a different band. That's all I wanted to add. Moving on to my number 2, speaking of Mr. Tommy Shaw, Man in the Wilderness from The Grand Illusion. The lyrics, he was inspired because Styx at the time were touring with Kansas, and he heard those great Kerry Livgren songs, and he said, wow, these lyrics are amazing. And that inspired Tommy Shaw to dig deep and write Man in the Wilderness. He was inspired by Kansas and Kerry Livgren's lyrics, and I think the lyrics are great. His performance is great, and just it's a melodic masterpiece. And there's an even better version with an extended outro of him sort of screaming, shrieking, and more guitar solo on the double. I think it's either called Anthology or Gold. They've released it twice. It's a 2 CD Styx set, and it has a longer version. It's probably about 7 minutes or so instead of the 5-something minute version on The Grand Illusion. So that's definitely worth hearing, the extended version of Man in the Wilderness. At number 2, my favorite Tommy Shaw Styx song.
Wow. So that means we're not going to have no number 1 Tommy song. Huh. Interesting. All right. Well,
Nope.
let me get to my number 2. I already told you that my favorite Dennis song was number 4. So as you can probably guess, it's either going to be a JY song or a Tommy Shaw song.
It could be
So
John Cyrulewski.
no. All right. So my number 2 is going to be none other than the number 16 Smash, which will close out the trilogy of songs from none other than Pieces of 8. And that's going to be the song that closes out the Styx show and has always closed out a Styx show, at least for the last umpteen years, since they've been doing these 100 plus dates every single year. None other than Renegade. What it can be said about this song. they've always enjoyed playing this song. This is the one, that. And the odd thing is, it's an interesting note on this song is, Tommy Shaw is the one that wrote the song, but he actually asked JY if he could take the solo on Renegade. So, believe it or not, that's what JY did on the album. He actually did the solo for Renegade and gave it, even more identity there with that tasty solo. Interesting enough, because usually Tommy does everything on his songs by himself. So it's kind of
Yes.
weird that he actually allowed JY to do it, but it paid off in dividends. No doubt about it. That song, one of the highest charting songs in the band's history there. And, obviously their highest charting song is probably not going to be on our countdown here. So I'll just mention it. And that was none other than their lone number one, which is Babe, of course, from Cornerstone. And the song that the band, we kind of talked about it before, where at least the current version of the band will never play that one live. that's a given. That's one thing you could bank on. You could take that.
Absolutely.
You could take that to the bank. But yeah, so Styx has only had one number one song, but it's weird how that's the song that kind of started the wheels in motion where the band kind of got divided, unfortunately. But anyhow, getting back to my Renegade here. Yeah, number 16, that's one of the highest charting songs of the band's career. They've had let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. Wow, they've had 7 top 10 hits. So this was number 16. So yeah, obviously it cracked the top 20. But there hasn't been many other ones. Actually, that's the closest song that doesn't make the top 10. So that is interesting there. I didn't realize that, but
And I think all the top 10 songs are all Dennis DeYoung songs except for one Tommy Shaw song.
one Tommy Shaw song. All right.
In the top 10.
Yes.
Top 10 singles, Billboard singles.
Yes, you are absolutely right. Absolutely.
And I'm guessing I will get to it when we get there.
Yeah, we'll talk about it at the end here.
Should I do my number one, or are you?
Yeah, you got the drum roll ready?
I have no drums here, but do you want to guess before I say it?
Your number one. It's a Dennis song.
Yes.
It's not that one that you didn't mention. No, it's not a Wooden Nickel song, right?
No, it's not.
Thank you. Okay. Did it make the top 40?
You mentioned it already.
Oh, okay. So that would be one of the ones that I mentioned, which is going to be probably none other than, go ahead.
Sweet Madam Blue from Equinox, 1975.
I didn't want to steal your thunder.
That's okay. That's my favorite Styx song. It's been that way for decades. And if you want to add the John Cyrulewski 12-string acoustic guitar, I think it's acoustic, 12-string guitar intro, Prelude 12, and then it sort of melds right into Sweet Madam Blue. That's my favorite Styx song. It was written about the bicentennial and the way Dennis DeYoung felt about America, what the problems were, what the good things were about America. And it's this epic song with great keyboard work, some great lead guitar by James Young, which he adds great guitar solos to almost every song he plays on. So I did want to mention that. And just the way Dennis, his vocal performance on the song is exquisite. It's great. My favorite Styx song, number one, Sweet Madam Blue.
All right.
And I think I know what your number one is. I have it down to 2 songs. If it's a Tommy Shaw song, which you said it was.
It is a Tommy Shaw song.
I'm going to guess Too Much Time on My Hands. It's the other one. So it's Crystal Ball.
You got it. None other than Tell Me Where I'm Going. None other than Crystal Ball.
Okay.
Yep. And yep, no doubt about it. This is the best Styx song in my book, bar none. Um, it became the album title of Tommy's first album was Styx, and it's one of those songs. There's not a lot of songs that do this, but I don't know how you are. I know I mentioned this in some of my interviews with people, and they talk about when you're at a live performance and you hear it's like a special song. And then all of a sudden you start getting this tingling and you start getting goosebumps and everything. And this is one of those songs that just does it to me every single time I ever seen it perform live. I mean, just a phenomenal song. It's definitely my favorite Tommy Shaw song that he's ever written in any band that he's been in. And, and he was just a young lad when he wrote this and he brought it in to the band back in 1976 when Crystal Ball was
Yep.
released. And yeah, so it's got a good mix. He's got the acoustic and the electric guitars on the studio version. But the live version that's on like Caught in the Act is the one that it really if you ever heard that version, that's where it really comes home. That's the best live version that I've heard so far. But every live version that he's ever done of the song will make me stand up and take notice.
Well, there's a third verse on it that's on one of the later live albums. An unreleased verse that they cut out from the studio version that's not on Caught in the Act, the live album, but it's on one of their later albums from the 2000s, where he sings the missing verse that he wrote that they had cut from the studio version in 1976.
Do you know where that live version is?
They've had so many live albums like Yes and like Rush. Do a tour, put out a live album. Do a tour, put out a live album. And for years there, they weren't recording new studio material, so it was all live albums. It could be on the one where they covered the Gowan song "A Criminal Mind." It might be on that one with the brownish cover. Can't think of the name of it.
That would be think Styx World Live 2001.
Could be that one.
It's 6 minutes and 28 seconds on that one.
That sounds like it's the version then.
And then Gowan, Criminal Minds on that one. Love is the Ritual. So they had Glenn sing that back then because he was in the band at the time. And that's where the Boat in the River is too. Boat on the River's on that Styx World Live 2001.
So that's the one to get. That's the one to listen to.
Yeah, that's the live album that really, I mean, Glenn even does the version of the song he wrote that became the number one for Patti Smythe. Sometimes Love Just Ain't Enough. I remember he used to play that with Styx here and there. So that was pretty cool.
That's the duet between Patti Smythe and Don Henley.
Yeah. Glenn Burtnick co-wrote it with Patti Smythe.
Yes.
That's how he first came into fame there, pretty much. Way back in, man, I don't know what year that was, but I remember it was number one, that's for sure.
I think it was 91.
Right around the time before he joined Styx.
Oh, may have been earlier then.
Yeah, I'm trying to place when that song came out because it's been a while for
89,
sure.
89, 90. I can't recall.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Should we do honorable mentions?
Yeah, let's get into it. Let's go ahead and give me all. You can just give me all yours right in a row.
Okay, from the debut album, the first Dennis DeYoung type ballad, although it's a cover song written by someone else, that's why I didn't include it in my top 10. What Has Come Between Us? Great vocal performance, love his keyboard work, excellent song. It sounds a little dated also because it is from 1972. But What Has Come Between Us was on my list. From the Man of Miracles album, Christopher, Mr. Christopher. Dennis gets a little religious on that one, but it has great keyboard work and some nice bass work too from Chuck Panazzo. Let's see. Some Tommy Shaw love from the Cornerstone record. Two songs that I hated leaving out of my top 10. Lights and Love in the Midnight, the first song and the last song. Those are my two favorite Tommy Shaw songs from the Cornerstone record. Two excellent songs. And Dennis DeYoung has a great proggy type keyboard solo towards in the middle, that's 2/3 of the way into Love in the Midnight. Let's see. Also, from the Return to Paradise album, On My Way. That is a great deep cut.
Yes.
And I wanted to include that in my top 10 because it's not overplayed like a lot of Styx hits, I think, are overplayed. That's why I like a lot of the deeper cuts. And I never play that one. I never hear that one. On My Way is a great melodic hard rock song. And from Cyclorama, One with Everything is another progressive rock song that the whole band wrote together that Tommy Shaw sings. It's about 6 minutes, some odd seconds long. Great keyboard work in there by Lawrence Gowan, who replaced Dennis DeYoung. And then a rare Styx B-side from the early Wooden Nickel era, Unfinished Song, a Dennis DeYoung ballad that he wrote and sang. That's on, when they released the original vinyl, there were 3 different songs that started off side 2 of Man of Miracles. There was their cover of the Knickerbockers' Lies. They put Best Thing from the first album on there, which I never knew why they did that. And then some pressings had Unfinished Song, which is a great Dennis DeYoung ballad. So those are my honorable mentions. I should also add, you mentioned it, I'm Okay is a great song, and the title track from Pieces of Eight. And I'll end it there. That's a lot of honorable mentions. Sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. They have a lot of songs, so you're entitled to that. You know, it's different if the band only has 4 albums out and you're naming every single song. But if they were that good, you know, they would have more than 4 albums. Yeah. So for me, one of them that just barely missed out was none other than "Fooling Yourself," the angry young man there from good old Grand Illusion. That was, you know, I just love that song. That's one of those great Tommy Shaw songs that was a hit. We reached number 29 on the charts. And it's one that the band still faithfully plays in concert to this day. And
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
guessing they always will. And just like you mentioned, and we mentioned, I think earlier and during the conversation today, during this show episode, we mentioned I'm Okay, a great Dennis song from Pieces of Eight there. Lights from Cornerstone. You mentioned that. The same with me. I love that song. Couple other honorable mentions I'll give that are kind of out of the blue because we talked about this album being incohesive and not a great album. But I will give the song "Brave New World" itself a great review. I love that song. It's the highlight of the album. It actually was written by JY and Tommy, but Tommy's the lead singer on it. Great song. You know, too bad it didn't help the album out any, you know, trying to make it sell better. And that's the thing about Styx nowadays. I mean, this album was important to help get them back out on the road because they hadn't really toured much because Dennis was unable to tour um, after the Return to Paradise Theater tour. He wasn't able to tour. They started then writing the Brave New World album, and then when it was time to go out on the road, Dennis was had some kind of a medical thing where he just couldn't be out there on the road at that point in time.
Yeah.
But the band didn't want to lose the momentum they had with the new album being out there. They felt if they didn't go out right then and there, you know, everything's going to kind of fall by the wayside of why they released the album to begin with, because they wanted to get back out on the touring market. And that was the first tour that really started where they're at now. They've toured over 100 dates pretty much every year, over 100 dates every single year since then, consistently. And they're
Yes.
always playing like these package tours for Live Nation, or they'll, you know, they did a great back in I think it was 2011. They did like a theater tour where they played Pieces of Eight and the Grand Illusion in its entirety, both of
I
them
was there.
together.
I saw
That
that.
was unbelievable. I mean, I wish they would go do that again for like a couple of the other albums, but or even redo that again because it's been what 10, 12 years since they did that. I mean, I think that if they did that again, they would still draw real good because those.
I don't think James Young can sing those some of his songs anymore.
Well,
I
you
think
know,
that's part of the reason why.
well, I mean, who knows? I mean, and plus they got the two new albums out now, so they really like to have a varied set. And like you said, this year when they go out, don't expect to hear a lot of deep cuts only because it's a package tour and they won't have as much time out on there per show, unfortunately. But
It'll be the hits.
yeah, well, they'll throw in a couple deep cuts. They might play Light Up or something like that. Here and there they'll throw in a couple of those type of songs. But
Do
for
you
the
know
most,
who's headlining? Is it co-headlining or
you know,
swapping?
I was reading up on that. I didn't really see exactly what's going on because in my estimation, Styx should close out the show. I don't care if it's Foreigner's Farewell or not.
I think it'll be Foreigner, but we'll have to wait and see.
Now, when Styx toured with Foreigner back in 2014, I believe, it was Styx, Foreigner, and Don Felder. Don Felder from the Eagles would open, Styx would come on next, and then Foreigner would close it out. But even though it's Foreigner's Farewell, I don't know. I feel Styx is the more popular and the better band at this point because they got at least a couple original members from their era. Right now Foreigners out there with no Mick Jones.
Zero. Yep. They have
Exactly.
zero, nothing.
They keep saying, "Oh, maybe Mick will show up," but I'm looking. I haven't seen one show last year where Mick showed up at all. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I didn't. You figured it would be a big thing about it if he actually showed up to play at a show. But at 70, I'm not sure how old he's like mid 70s. I doubt you're going to get him out of the house to go do a rock show. But it'd be nice if he can at least go up there and maybe play like the encore. That would be
Well,
decent enough.
that's what Chuck Panazzo does with Styx. He gets up and plays two or three songs during the set occasionally, usually in New York, Chicago, like Florida, California. He'll be at Styx shows that are in those places. But Mick Jones hasn't shown up at a Foreigner show in a long time. I think he has health issues, and they're just trying to keep it on the down low.
Yeah, they keep saying, well, you never know when Mick will show up, but
But he
yeah,
never shows up.
never shows up. Yeah,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Chuck is there more with Styx than he's there with Foreigner.
Exactly.
Mick Jones, I mean, is there
Yeah.
with
Oh,
Foreigner.
yeah. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. All right. So, yeah, that was an interesting episode, digging up some deep cuts from Styx. Obviously, anybody could put all the hits in a set and say, "Oh, these are the best Styx songs," but it's not always the case with a band. When you got such a vast catalog like these guys do, you were bound to get, and we could bring in two other guys to do the same review with us, and nobody's going to have the same list. I mean, how many songs did we end up having the same on here? We both had
Just
Sweet
two.
Madam Blue.
Sweet Madam Blue and Come Sail Away.
Wow, and that's what you called it at the beginning of this thing. You said
I
two
did.
songs. That's interesting how that happens. Yeah, I mean, if Tom Jennings was on with us, he would have a whole different set of songs. So
Yeah.
that's what makes this fun.
Neither of us picked Babe. Neither of us picked Too Much Time on My Hands, which was Tommy Shaw's one stick song that hit the top 10.
Right?
I think it peaked at number 4. Neither of us had the best of times. And we didn't mention anything from The Mission or the one after Crash of the Crown.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
Radio Silence is probably my favorite song off The Mission. So
Yeah,
I think that's a great Tommy Shaw song, Radio Silence. It sounds like old Styx. I
yep.
think that harkens back a lot.
Yeah, and there's definitely a couple really good songs on both those albums that that you could make a case for. But I don't think the only thing with that is I just don't think they just don't compete with the classic catalog when you really
I
dig deep,
agree.
you know. But that's hard. That's not them. Those two albums that they came out with were unbelievable. You wouldn't expect the band to be that good this late into their career because most of the time when bands come out with albums after their you know era where they peaked, usually you're going to get not that great. And of course, there's one album that was released this year by a classic rock band that really shows you, that they've released the best album they made probably since 1980, 1981. This year, the
The
Rolling
Rolling
Stones.
Stones.
Yep.
Yep, I knew you were going there.
That album, this new album by the Stones is unbelievable. And that's definitely, for me, I can tell you right now that we're in December, that's definitely the album of the year for me personally. There wasn't an album the only album that I would say has come close is the new Peter Gabriel that just came out, but that just came out, so you can probably carry that over in the next year. But that Gabriel album is definitely a contender for sure. Definitely, it's. I just wish if he would have released that album before the tour started, I think more people would have been happy about it because you're getting a lot of mixed reaction from that tour. A lot of people are bored because they didn't know the songs, and it was a great
You want the
show.
hits.
But I just feel if I would have known the material better, I would have enjoyed it even more. I would have gotten more out of it. So Peter, definitely, you made a mistake by not releasing that album, in my estimation, before the tour started. But it's a great album, and the tour was great. I just think your tour would have been even better, and that's all. Nothing else. He did a great job on the album by a mile. What a great sounding album, and an interesting way he did it was the traditional album has two CDs. It's got the same songs on both, but one's called the Bright Side Mix and the other one's called the Dark Side Mix. So I just got it yesterday, I believe. Yeah. And I mean, I've already played it like a lot.
Wow.
And wow, what an album. Definitely, if you haven't gotten it, that's one highly recommended.
Well, Peter Gabriel, he marches to the beat of his own drummer, so he does things his own way.
Yep.
The fact that it's taken him 20 years to make an album of all new studio songs, that shows you just he has his own path that he's on, and he does things the way he wants to.
Yeah. All right. Any other things you want to add before we let you go here?
Yeah, just want to mention my brand new YouTube channel I just started called Cretin Classics. I only have a few videos up so far, but I'll be adding stuff over the next few weeks, as long as I don't have to work extra days that they keep putting me on the schedule for. But work is work. So I have a Cars album ranking on there. That's my big video so far. And
All
since I
right.
have all the cameras and lights set up, maybe I'll do a video tonight. We'll have to see.
All right. Well, sounds good. And we'll put the link for that channel in the in the comments on the for the when I post my when I post this video here. All right.
Excellent.
Well,
Thank you very
sounds good.
much.
Thanks for coming aboard and helping me do this. It's been a pleasure and an eye-opening experience, and I'll let you know how I like those songs that you brought up on your end there,
Okay.
and
Great songs.
we'll go from there. So stay tuned for another episode down the road. We're gonna do focus. We've done a lot of the album rankings on my channel, so I'm gonna try to focus more on some of the catalogs on the songs on some of these bands. Um, because obviously we definitely you can definitely dig deeper on these things when you talk about the individual songs, because then
Yes.
you start talking about a song and then it brings up something else and it makes you really, you can really go deep on these bands. And the albums are kind of just telling about the album and listening them and going through them and ranking them. But once you get into songs, that's where you can really dissect them a little bit more. So, all right. Well, thank you. And we'll see you guys on another episode.
Take care.